Recording going. So I'm going to call to order this meeting, a budget workshop meeting of the Willington Board of Education. It is Tuesday, January 17th, 2023. We will call the meeting to order at 6:06 p.m. We start our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We start our meetings with present to speak. If there's anyone on the call who's not on the Board of Education who would like to make some comments, please come off of mute or come show your video so we can see you, or you can also use the raise hand under the reactions button. Don't see too many folks on the call tonight. They're probably all going to watch us on recording on the video. So, okay, we'll move on then to the introduction of the superintendent's proposed spending plan. Go ahead and take it away. If you're not speaking, if you would go ahead and put yourself on mute for this part of the presentation, that would be great. Thank you. Except for you, Herb, just leave it the way it is. Okay, we're good.
Okay, just want to make sure Donna got in because she was coming on her computer, I think.
I think I'm in,
and
I just hung up the phone.
We're great. Thanks, Donna. We can hear you fine.
All right, so thanks all. This budget process is long. It's an intense process. It takes a while. It takes a lot of coordination, a lot of collaboration. Just want to thank the folks that helped get to this point. It's I think this is probably the latest that I've ever been, to be honest with you, with budget, but I think we have a good budget, and just the information that the staff and the administrators gave to us to get to this point. I appreciate their help. Obviously, they're integral in this process. Brenda just hanging in there with all my can you check this, can you check this, can you check this, and Donna, our business manager, just going back and forth with her. I don't think this is the time of year she sees me the most, and people in that office are like, Phil, you're back again. And so I have the admin team here today. It's Lisa's birthday, so she's got a special birthday budget presentation. So happy birthday, 29th birthday to Lisa. This budget will be out on the website tomorrow, and I am going to share my screen, and just can someone just give me a nod? And I'm looking at you. You can see it. Okay, perfect. So the first task, what I want to do is just walk through the budget document, and this is pretty consistent with what we've done in the past. And I can't see you all, so if you want me to stop with anything, please let me know. I'm going to start. It's got the team, my letter kind of to the town, and the schedule. I'm going to start on page 6. This is the table of contents, so you can see what's there. It has all 10 programs. That's the number of programs we utilize in the budget. We have enrollment information. We have program summaries. We have all the staffing information and budget assumptions. So this is all the items that are in this document. If I go back to, and sorry for making you dizzy, if I go back to this here to page 5, this has the board goals. And really, this is an important part of the budget process, just simply because this is what we have to connect dollars to, right? When you set your goals, we need to be able to tie our specific allocations to the goals and, back to the budget. So it's an important part of the process. I'm not going to read them all. I think you've seen this enough. I'm going to, make you dizzy, and I'm going to fly down to about page 25. And this is the start of the appendix. And so the administrators take the time to update their sections And so I'm not going to, read these to you. These are also an important connection, so you understand what's part of this, what's in the process. So you have center school with their goals. You have hall school with their instructional summary and their goals. And then you have special education here, the instructional summary. So you can go through these on your own. They're there. And again, they align with the board goals and the resource allocations as well. So it's important. I'm going to keep going down here. Sorry for making you dizzy. To page 32. It's always important for people to know the types of grants we get. I think that sometimes we take these for granted, no pun intended, just simply because we get them each year. They're there. And so if we were ever not to get these, it would have a significant impact on the budget. We have special education grants at the top, IDEA, and then the excess cost. I see Marcia has bad internet tonight. And then excess cost, which is the reimbursement. The numbers that we got last year are in here, and the numbers we applied to the budget this year are on the front side of that. And then the general ed portion of this is the grants that we get, and some of it's fed, but it's all done through the state. The title grants, and you'll see these offsets in the budget, the REAP grant, and then this page is dried up a little bit because of some of the COVID grants are drying up. So the last real COVID grant on here is the ARP ESSER grant, and I'll show you in detail, how it's being applied, where it's being applied, in what program. But if you just wanted some general information on this, you can just get a sense of what's there. The next page here is the proposed staffing for 23-24. It's broken into a district section, a center school, and hall school, and then we put on an other, which is food service, business office, IT, transportation, because without these positions too, you can't have a school district. So we put them all together. It doesn't mean they're all in the budget, but they're all together. For the most part, they're in the budget one way or the other. One of the things that I wanted to point out, and this is something I did different this year, as because I share it each year, is you'll see that there's certain people that work. We consider them kind of split. They'll go between two buildings. So, literacy coach, math coach, portion of the social worker can be considered at a hall school, even though her main home is at center school. And then we also tie things to programs. So you'll see right here, this is Brenda, and 0.85, we consider her as in one program as my assistant, but then she's also, a portion of her work is in transportation. And so she, part of her salary is in the transportation lines. Okay. So I think it makes sense, but you can see the breakdown of staff by each school. And I'll share some of the specific details and changes when I go into those specific budgets. So get up to page 7. Again, I'm going to make you dizzy. Sorry. So here's the big one. This is what you want to know right from the get-go. This is what everybody wants to know. Where's the 23-24 my proposed budget at? Right now, this is our BOE budget, 22-23. It's $9,074,681. My proposed budget is $9,314,473. It's an increase of $239,792, which is a 2.64% increase. I think inflation right now is like 6.5. We had some very, very positive things, and I'll share what those things are as I go through some of this to get us to this number, because this honestly could have been significantly higher. The first thing is insurance. We obviously have to have some developmental assumptions to do the budget, and our insurance premium is already settled. We never get this information this early in the year. Usually we say it's not going to exceed 10%. It's already settled at 7.5. What I'll tell you is we're hearing numbers in the same groups that we're in the 40s, 40% increase, 20% increase. And we were basically told by our broker, if you go out, you're taking a significant risk, and it probably will not be 7.5. So we just accepted it. The good news is we've had really good luck with insurance, and I think that number is going to be down some, which is amusing with that increase. So dental, no more than 3%. That is not settled yet. Heating fuel is up $3.19 compared to $2.94 currently. Diesel fuels up $3.27 compared to $2.97. Electric rates decreased, but what you're going to end up seeing is that we're using more electricity actually, and so that budget went up some. We're planning for 2 special education out of district placements. You always know that number can change, and so it's just what our assumption is today. Contractual transportation costs. Remember, we had this last year. We offset some with non-lapsing, or sorry, a prepay, I think it was. And we're increasing $40,000 this year in plus in transportation costs, and that's general education. It is important, and I always review this. Just remember, we have shared services. We're a small town, and it's important for people to know that, like, you know, we share a business manager, an assistant business manager, accounts analyst. So we have a lot of shared positions through the business office that we make work, and I think it's effective. We've put a lot of strain in that the office for the business office has been a lot of strain because of just simply all of the COVID grants and reporting over the last few years. And so it's a lot on them, but they're doing very, very well. IT, we share Novus with the town. We negotiate the heating, oil, electricity, and diesel. We share that mowing and landscaping and the telephone. And then we do our insurances together. So even though there might be different percentages that groups pay, we utilize the same insurance. And then I always talk about the unfunded mandates. I'm not going to go through this list this year, but there's always a boatload of them. And 2 are kind of hot button topics. And one was on Facebook that I'll just share real quick. And people were talking about the mandatory, it was legislated last year that teachers have a 30-minute lunch period, and it trumped contracts. And so it's an unfunded mandate because it was negotiated in a contract. And what happens is you now as a district have to comply with that change. And it's not saying that they didn't have a lunch before, but they're now getting more time and it takes away from something. So you have to find times for things. There's just legislation like that happens all the time. The other piece that's a biggie, and Marcia's not on camera. I can't see Marcia, but she might be on camera. But the CT SEDS is the new IEP platform. It is, I'll call it a significant challenge, and I'm saying that kindly. It has been a lot of hours. The state has thrown some money at it to help districts, but the number of hours that the special ed team and specifically Marcia have spent on that program has been significant. There's not, there's some money that's come along, but it's just extra time where she's got to spend on to get IEPs right. So there's a bunch of these. It's just important to be aware of them. So again, 2.64% increase. And, I think it's a reasonable budget, and hopefully you'll see that. The next thing here, this page just simply has that where the grants were applied. It's the same thing. And then I'm going to go to the enrollment because I think this is the other important piece. So I changed the look of this a little bit this year. So this is our projected enrollment and our actual enrollment combined. So you've got all the grades here. The October 1 enrollment is the big one that we report to the state. So that is this column right here. We reported 400 students, and that includes special education outplacements and itinerant students because they're on our roster. Okay, so we had 400 October 1st, 26 homerooms across the entire group. Even though pre-K has an AM and PM, we only count it as 1. Okay, these are one as of today. The class sizes are right here, and this is an ever-changing thing. And so basically what I've done is you just basically take this number 15, 15, 14, and the enrollment of 44 today, and you bump it down to the next year. So if you look, it's right here, 44, 15, 15, 14, and it just goes down, and that's how we develop our number of sections. We got burned a little bit, I think, this year with kindergarten, and we had to scramble. You had to apply non-lapsing funds, and knowing that I put in 3 sections of kindergarten this year here, and it's the same number of sections that overall that we have this year. So there's no addition in there for what you're paying. So our enrollment CES as of today, 218 and 174. Okay. So let's get to program 1, unless you, oh, sorry, here's the enrollment history. I always like to put this in. Just shows you where we've been. We've been in this 400 range for a while. I think COVID was our drop down to into that 392, 397, 400. If you're ready, though, Donna Cook raised her hand. I can see.
I just have a quick question. What is an itinerant student?
So they're just getting services. So they might be someone who, you know, is just coming in for speech and language services at, you know, the elementary school. They're not in our, you know, daily program. It's just those are the services they are getting. And when you do that, they're considered to be on our books.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Unless you see anybody else, Michelle, I'm going to cruise it along. Okay, so this is program 1, center school. And as you look at the staff here, remember that, you know, staff leave, we hire new people, these numbers change. You can see that in the secretarial budget, and I'm just going to jump down real quick to show you an example of this. This was this year's number, and this is this budget that we're coming into. So when you see drops like that, it's simply maybe someone left and we hired someone higher or lower, and you'll see those things consistently throughout. We might have added positions or taken positions away. We'll share that tonight of what it looks like. Just wanted to share it. So 1 administrator at center school, you can see 19.53 teachers. We have a Title I teacher that's grant, so it's 0.52 of her salary. There's 1.65 secretaries, even though it's actually 2. Remember, part of that, the other portion of that secretary is in another program, transportation or special ed. So it's really a full-time position, okay? This paraprofessionals, library, media, due to clerical, is left at 0 intentionally. I think a lot of people think that we have paraprofessionals that are general education in our classrooms to support, and we don't. There are none. And I think it's always important to put 0 in this line, and I will continue to do that just to show we don't have them there. Utility staff, we had started off with 3, went down to 2, and next year I'm recommending 1, and there'll be 1 at each school. You can see I added in here contractual following a lot of these things. So these are all salaries based upon contracts. And when you go through, you can see the teacher's contract here. We had some changes in staffing, and we only went up a small portion. You know, the increase was around 275, but we went from 463 to 475. When you look at the utility staff, that's new. This is now in the board budget. There's no grant offset there, and you'll see that at the bottom. Okay. When I get down to purchase services, you're going to see some jumps there. You'll see a jump from 40, you know, kind of 11,000 to 4,000 to 10,000. Some of these are multi-year contracts. Some of these are new. I will tell you the adjustment this year. The subscriptions under this purchase service, it's mainly due to our curriculum work, and we have science and math subscriptions that are tied to those curriculum improvements, reading A to Z, reflex math we're using as a support. You've heard about the gizmos from the science curriculum, that's in there. So that's where we see this increase. I did not write contractual behind these, but obviously there's a contract for these subscriptions. There's a contract for PowerSchool. There's a contract for copiers, phone, internet, all the way down. These are mostly contracts, okay? The other increase this year that we saw here was disposal services jumped a little bit. This is like inflation, what you see right there. I mean, they have got us good this year. And then the extra activities are really the CES clubs. We have the PE teacher over there does all sorts of special programming. Brian Phillips is tremendous. And so we have some money in there just to help offset and provide some support to those programs. Last Friday, He did a special program on the half day for a period of time. Just games. Kids are always trying to sign up for it. Parents are always trying to get in there. They're like, it's really popular. So we put some money to it. So you can see the purchase service line went up again, mainly because of the contractual changes in the curriculum needs. Okay. They had a big jump in educational supplies. And I'll tell you, the big portion of this is really around books. But this educational supplies, remember, is everything. It's paper, it's supplies for unified arts, it's supplies for math, it's supplies for science. It's not broken out. It's all of those supplies. The increase here, you can see that underneath it on textbooks, we took out the money in reading and we put it into supplies here. So there's about $6,500 that's in for books, and it's again directly linked to curriculum for decodables and for other books that they need to implement the curriculum. That's a big portion of that increase. The other portion, I'm going to be honest, is probably a little bit of inflation. And so, as the cost of paper this year is unbelievable. And we use a lot of paper. And so that's, built into this cost. As far as textbooks go, again, remember, these aren't traditional textbooks. So the reading's out of there. The media center is the books for the library media center. You've got periodicals for the school that are in there. We left those flat. We've been doing okay with those. Typically, we argue with them and just say, hey, you got to keep it flat. Sometimes we change subscriptions, so we left it flat. When you look at the computer equipment, this is something we leave in each year. And that is typically to replace an iPad or a Chromebook that breaks if we don't have to charge someone. Things that come up, hey, I need a new HDMI cable or things like that. This is a total offset, though, through the REAP grant. We have in maintenance, we have typical piano tuning is in there. We keep that flat. And then building maintenance. This big jump over here, 76, was a special project. That's not a typical year. That's the adjusted, remember. So if we did a big project, that's where it would come from. I believe that's the septic tank. Okay. And so we bumped this up a little bit to 31,000. Again, all of these things, fire alarm tests, pest control, they're all going up. And, we're working with these agencies to keep our costs down, but obviously they're going up. The others, and again, these are all contractual, by the way. We have contracts with all those folks. The others, the conference and travel, that is a contractual for the administrators. The principal supply, we left flat, and that's special things. Like they'll buy, if they find they don't have funding for something, they'll use these supplies to purchase something. Lisa might be doing Super Bees and need, special paper that she's going to do her Super Bee pictures on, and she'll drop those funds in there, use those funds for that. So it's a reasonable amount. And then dues, fees, and memberships. This is for anybody at center school, including the principal. If there's any professional dues, part of this is contractual, and part of this is us saying, you are our math or science coordinator. You should be connected to the National Math Council, and they can buy a subscription for that. Can you get her in? Thank you so much. So you can see the total expenditures there are just under where they were last year. And the difference is in the grants. So Title I is the grant, and we apply that to a salary. We'll apply $44,690. We have a $5,000 REAP grant that we'll apply. And then these other ones is where it's dried up. So the grant offset for ESSER II, that money has to be spent by September of 23. Can't apply that anymore, and there's no more money anyways. So that was really the that and the $25,661. Those two were funding the utility staff. And then the last grant offset was the non-lapsing fund. And that's when we didn't have the funding budget in the budget for a kindergarten teacher. So we used non-lapsing fund to pay for that. So we applied that to the current budget. We're not applying that to next year. So you can see the increase went from 1.6 million to 1.7 million. And again, you can see the support of this program in the specific write-up for the program. Any questions about program one? I told you I was going to move. Herb's got a question, I think.
hit her.
Am I on?
We can hear you. Yep, we're good.
Under the library situation, I'm not quite clear on that. I know we didn't have a teacher in there. We had a para in there last year. What are we doing in that particular area to service that area?
So the library has a certified teacher at Center. She's 0.8 at Center and 0.2 at Hall. And the reason she's 0.8 at Center is because they have scheduled classes and she's teaching lessons at Center. And Hall School has a paraprofessional in that role. She has a specific name in library duty. I can't remember her name. There's a specific name for contractually for her. But she's, in essence, it's not a certified position at Hall School.
So we don't service those areas all day. In other words, if they're working there part-time, they're splitting their time between Hall School and Center School.
So with the point, she's there for the library media specialist is at Center School for all of her classes. And so she spends the majority of her time at Center, and she has scheduled classes. The para at Center at Hall, is basically supervised by the library media specialist at Center.
So we don't have a specialist there.
There is no certified teacher at Hall, and they do not have those. They do not have library classes built into their schedule. They use it more as a resource. They'll use that space to go, if they're going to integrate something and they're going to go do some research together, they'll go use it for an English language arts, or they can come in for science. They can pull books. That's really the resource for them.
Yeah. My other question is in relation to some of the snapshots at the beginning. It was in the special education area, where you said there are two allotments for two special ed students, and I was wondering whether the special ed students were placeholders or whether they're actual students who require special education.
No, so that's in a different program, but no, there are no place. The only two that we've budgeted for are the two we know. We do not have a placeholder for special education if there's another outplacement. We typically see our non-lapsing fund as our emergency fund should something like that ever occur.
Donna
So
has her hand up. Oh, I'm sorry.
The allotment for those students is for two students, really. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yes, and it's in the special education program. It's not in this program.
So they're not placeholders.
They're not quite what?
That's right. They're not placeholders.
Oh, no, they're not placeholders. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Donna has her hand up too. If you want to come off of mute, Donna.
Yeah, I just two questions. One is a follow-up. You just said that there's a library person at Center and at Hall. They split time. Is that correct?
Sorry for making you dizzy. This is probably the easiest way to show it. So you can see right here at Center School and the staffing, there's a 0.8 library media specialist. This is the person who's certified. And she basically will go to a Hall School when she's needed. And they collaborate over Zoom. They might, they can do things in person. 0.2 of her is at Hall School. But there's also a library aide full-time is her title right here. And it's in essence, it's in the non-certified contract. And so she spends her day there, and, they use her as needed. She collaborates with teachers to do research projects. She's got a full day.
So the library media specialist who's 0.8, are they in the teachers line?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, she's certified and she's 1.0. It's just between two buildings. So 0.8 of her salary, good question. 0.8 of her salary falls into this teacher's contractual line right here.
Okay, so when at the top where you have the position, she's in the teachers.
Correct. And she would be 0.8 of that of her would be in that number right there.
Okay. My next question is, when we got the utility support staff, that was when all the extra cleanings and people weren't leaving the classes, so things were being brought in that way. What is the utility support person going to be doing in the 23-24 school year?
Good question. I think that the shift is really around support within the building and coverage. So I'm going to use Allie Nizer as an example at Center School. Allie can, if you have somebody out and you need someone in the office, she can answer phones for 2 hours. Allie can go and cover a class for 2 hours for a PPT. She can go and be a sub for an entire day, provide coverage at any time, do a lunch duty. They're a catch-all, and it's, I can't, I had talked to Mary Kay about this, and it's something that we put into their budget, simply because it is a struggle, even with the numbers that people are putting out, the dollar amounts districts are willing to pay for subs. It's still a struggle. I heard somebody say the other day they were paying $185 a day, which is way more than we're paying, and they're still struggling to find subs. So this person is a support for whatever is needed in the building. It might be clean. It might be cleaning. It might be something that it might be moving furniture. It might be setting up for a special event. It is literally a catch-all. I know the ones we have right now at Center are dynamite, but only one of those will remain next year at Center.
So my question to you, if it's so hard to get subs, are we better off keeping the second utility support staff person and reducing our dependency on subs? I don't know exactly what would be the difference in their skill set and if that's appropriate, but will it be better for us to do that? Will we have more continuity in service and possibly save money?
So the possibly save money is a slippery slope, and I'll tell you why. Is because when you have a sub, they just come in for when you need them. When you hire these utility staff at 1.0, if they take insurance, and we had to budget for a family insurance because you don't want to get stuck here, so they're making their salary, but they can take insurance, and so you very quickly can surpass $50,000 for this person, whereas a sub, you're only spending the money you need. So this is what I see as a balance of trying to bring people in when you need them, but also having that fallback. When we have 2 or 3 or 4 people out, it's hard, but at least we know this person can jump right into any position and make things happen. You could add another person if you wanted to. We have one in there right now as our recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Herb. Herb, yes, I recognize you. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, on the educational supplies in the textbook, Center School, the elementary school, we've deleted the reading. Currently, we don't use textbooks anymore in the schools. At least that particular item seems to be either reduced or eliminated. In this case, the reading books are eliminated. But was some of that money put into the educational supplies to support the social and emotional curriculum? Because under educational supplies, we have an increase of probably $11,000.
No, the money that was in that 2,600 that I have highlighted right here, now it's a dash. We moved all of that and then some. So the majority of the increase right here from 31,000 to 41,000, the majority of that is books. And so these aren't traditional textbooks. These are library books, small, they're like classroom books, classroom sets, small decodable books. There's about $6,500 worth of books. And that's an increase from what it was at 2,600. And it's based on the curriculum. And let me tell you, the purchasing books, money doesn't go a long way. They're expensive. And when you start buying classroom sets, it's hard.
And they're increasing in cost,
Yeah, so that's the big increase. The increase over here for supplies is not really around the social emotional curriculum. There might be, some money in that educational supply line that they could use, but it's minimal compared to the other ones.
Other questions before we move on? Okay, seeing none, go right ahead, Phil.
Okay, so program 2 is Hall School, grades 5 through 8. You see that there's 2 administrators in here. This is where we put Dr. Conley. And so she's in there, just where she falls. We probably could put her in half and half. It's just where Donna put her in the beginning. So she's in here, but she's, remember, a full offset. So you have, did I talk about art? I did not talk about art. I'm going to talk about art now. Part of making these changes in staffing is the challenges with split positions. And so you can see that this went to 21.64. We made some adjustments. And one of the things I'm going to tell you we did, and we just did this, no joke, today. Over the past probably, 7-8 years, we've had kind of that revolving door of art teachers come through, and it's been challenges around serving 400 plus students in 2 separate buildings, 2 separate staffs to know, different sets of procedures, and doing it well. And we know it's a hard thing to do. And so what we did this year is we adjusted the budget, and right now the art teacher is 3 days a week in Hall School and 2 days a week in center. It's the same person, full-time position. Is we put that person as a 1.0 into Hall School only to teach classes. They would be a full-time position, and then made a new 0.4 position at center school 2 days a week to cover the 2 days that they have. And honestly, I think we would probably pull a retiree, as that's who would apply for that position. I think my honest opinion is if we leave it the way it is and the person continues to serve 2 buildings, I'm going to think that we're going to see that revolving door happen again. And it's they're doing some incredible work. I should take some pictures for you to show you, because the bulletin boards, the things that are going up are tremendous. So that's one adjustment to staffing at Hall School. A second adjustment to staffing at Hall is, I already mentioned, is the utility staff member. That is not a certified position. And then the third adjustment to staffing at Hall is, you heard the community. I think I heard you say it. I've heard the staff say it, and they've been saying this for years, to be honest with you, that they needed a math interventionist at Hall School, based upon our scores, based upon the needs of our kids. We have a math interventionist full-time at center school. Her caseload is packed. And so this is something that we felt like we needed. So there is a 1.0 math intervention position that was built into this budget. Okay, so those are really the core changes to Hall School, and they are big ones. Now, here's the interesting part of it. When you go down to contractual amounts of money for teachers, we've had some people leave and we've hired some new folks. And it turns out our budget is lower, even with those new positions in there. Our budget here is lower than it was currently for staffing. Okay, so important piece to know. We have some secretarial changes. Again, you can see the decrease. This looks like significant increase in the paraprofessional line, and it's really not. What we've done is we took away the world language certified salary, because we are in this budget fully recommending the maintaining using Rosetta Stone and using that world language paraprofessional to operate that class. I think it's working very, very well, and we'd like to keep that going, and this budget reflects that. And again, you saw the utility staff. So overall, there is a slight increase, but for adding those positions, it's very, very minor. For the purchase services, let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Sorry. For the purchase services, those changes there are, this is the Rosetta Stone. So it looks like there was a huge jump from 1,200 to 12,000. That is to purchase the program next year. There was actually a reduction in other subscriptions, and that's what brought it to the 12,100. Okay. The other items that are in here are basically flat. Again, a slight increase in the disposal services, but everything else for the most part was flat. We kept things the same based upon usage and the contracts that we currently have. Their educational supplies actually went down slightly, and it's simply because Mary Kay, who's the principal at HMS, went through each program and said, what have we been spending over the years? What are the programs that we no longer need? We're not using this program anymore. And I would say, as Donna says, as the business manager, she trued this up. This is trued up to what they're using. And it's a reasonable number, I think, for what they need to purchase. They do have a larger library book budget. This is for the media center. So they have 5,800 there. They have a larger offset in REAP at 6,800. Again, iPads, computers, Chromebooks, whatever they need. That's where the offset comes. And then the building maintenance, they kept flat. All of the different, things they need for inspections and things like that. Pest control, same as center school. And sometimes these are by square footage. Sometimes these are by usage. So flat for that 2 years in a row. And then these are all contractual. So stipends for coaches is contractual. The officials, we're told the rate of what we pay for our officials. You have to pay insurance for part of that sports. These stipends for extra activity, those are some of your clubs, and there's an offset. We increased the budget for sports equipment. They're finding that, as they need to replace some uniforms, that $2,800 or sorry, the $2,000 didn't go very far. So they increased it some. And again, if it's not enough, that's something that Mary Kay could use her principal supply money for if she wanted to, or they could do some fundraising. It depends on what they do. And then this after school program snacks, that is our Friday early release days that you are paying for snacks and transportation for. In the calendar that I presented last meeting, it was more than half of the days cut. So we only put $600 in for snacks, and there's an offset of that. Conference travel, contractual. Principal supplies is a little bit larger at this building simply because of the things that she at the middle school tend to be a little bit grander. Sorry, Lisa, it's just the way it goes. Middle schools, it happens that way. You have your dues and fees with your subtotal, and then your total expenditures. So the grant offsets, Title I, 16,000 goes towards a portion of an intervention teacher. 7,000 goes to clubs. 6,800 goes to the computer supplies. This is towards Aaron's salary, Dr. Conley's salary. It's a complete offset from ARP ESSER. And then I'm assuming you're going to approve a $600 non-lapsing fund offset for the $600 for the after-school program snacks. So again, the big changes here really turn into staffing in the art position. We're going from 1.0 district-wide to 1.4. And then adding a utility staff member here and adding a math interventionist. All, I would say, critical things to keep our work going. Questions on program 2?
Donna?
Yes, for the math interventionist, is there a reason we're using a para? That seems like it should be somebody that is trained to be an interventionist, or is a para totally
So, good question. So the paraprofessional that's in there now has been there for years, has been trying to can support intervention and use computer programs to support instruction. We need a certified teacher in there, and so that position basically would then support intervention on both sides, whether it's literacy or math. There's a need for it. I mean, the number of students that qualify for intervention is really high. That's where it is now. I'm proposing a certified teacher for the interventionist.
So the paraprofessionals, we've got the library person.
Yep.
Which I thought that was is that the person that shared with center?
Nope, that's that person. The library media specialist would be 0.2 over here. That would be up here.
Okay.
And then we have a 1.0 paraprofessional who's in that library. She does our news, she does a bunch of things, but her main, purpose is to be in that library, shelf books, pull resources for teachers. A teacher said, hey, it's Martin Luther King Day. What can you pull for us? And she'll pull all sorts of resources for teachers. We're going to be teaching on the Civil War. What do you have for resources? That's what she'll help do.
And then what is that interventionist doing?
This intervention is that paraprofessional that you're speaking about.
Okay.
So right now, as of today, this person is trying to provide math intervention support through the use of an online program. And then the world language is the Rosetta Stone.
The Rosetta Stone. So who was being added? Who wasn't there before?
It comes up here. It comes into this number here, into the 2164. Even though it looks like I've added, it's just the way the math works out with the numbers. I'm adding a 1.0. It just doesn't work out across the board there for the math.
So the math interventionist is a teacher.
Correct. Yes. That's who we would look to add. That's the position we would look to add. And
there's a second interventionist that's a paraprofessional.
Correct. And I think the adjustment would be, my expectation would be that person would be supporting wherever needed, whether it be literacy or math at that point in time. If you approve this and you add a math interventionist.
Go ahead, Herb.
We have a few grant offsets, Phil, and we welcome the money.
Yes.
But I was wondering, can you refresh my mind on the grant offset, the ARP ISER money for $124,000?
Yep. ARP ESSER was the last grant. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Herb.
Where are we allocating that money? Where is it going?
So when we wrote the ARP ESSER grant, that was the very last COVID grant to come in. And it was around learning loss and trying to address, the curriculum. That's what our biggest need was. And so the feedback we got was to hire Erin Conley is the director of curriculum instruction. And her entire salary is offset, and benefits in a different program is offset through this grant. Next year is the last year of the grant. So 23-24 will wrap up the grant. This will be and that's why there was nothing in this first year. It's only we wrote the grant for 3 years. If they extend the grant and there's funding left in that grant, you could look to apply it if you wanted to extend her time. or you could determine, you know what, we're in a good spot. It would be on the Board of Education budget at that point, though, to make those changes if you kept it. But the whole amount there is her salary, and it's contractual.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Donna has her hand up, I think.
Yeah, I have one more question.
Go ahead, Donna.
Is there a spot in this budget that lists the total staff, what was 22, 23 and what's 23, 24? Some things are being moved and shifted, some things are being deleted, some things are being added, and it's just kind of hard to see an overall where we were and where you would like to be.
I think the only thing you could do is compare it to last year, or I can do a recap of what is in this budget for changes. And it's really the three. It's the utility staff member, it's the art, and it's the math intervention. Those are the three. But you could, I guess you could compare, sorry again for making you dizzy. Let me grab my scroll bar here. You could compare this to last year. That's probably the easiest way to do it, because those are the only changes that are on here. If you see one additional here, it's because we brought in a kindergarten teacher. That was the change there. You can see that art would have been 0.5 here. It's just the way Donna had it in the budget, but now it's 0.4. And then art here is 1.0. But you'd have to compare the two. But I can do just a snapshot of those changes if that will help.
Actually, if it's easier, if you just send last year's Appendix E or its equivalent.
Yep.
That'd be easy enough. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You guys are easy tonight. Oh.
Herb, go ahead, Herb.
Just one question. It's not too significant, but in my buying of library books or textbooks and things of that kind, I noticed in our budgets for the last several years that the amount allocated in this particular area has leveled off. And to me, every time I see that, I say, well, the budget is leveling off. We're spending the same amount of money. It might be adequate for that year, but with the cost of everything spiraling up, and textbooks have increased substantially, and the same amount is being allocated, say, for a library book, for the library and textbooks for classrooms, there are fewer and fewer books being made available because you don't have the same amount of money because the cost is escalating. And if we look back over the years, the cost has remained the same, which means we're buying, instead of buying 500 books, we're probably buying 250 now.
So one of the things, Herb, that, and this is an important thing for you to know about me, is that we keep kind of an end of the year list, like what's your wish list? And I always have library books on there. And both for classroom and the books that you're looking at here, these are for the Library Media Center at Hall School. And so when they say, hey, can I have another $2,000 if we have in supply money for library books, my answer is always yes. So we might, in essence, spend money out of a supply line to put some additional library books in there. I have not heard from Amy. I mean, Amy Redding would ask for millions of dollars if you know, probably so would my wife as a literacy coach. But I think that they're getting good numbers. The other thing is that the book fair that they do, they get probably $3,000 or $4,000. I think there's $3,000 or $4,000 in book fair money right now that they can use to buy books. So, you know, those are things that, even though that number's flat, you know, they'll always welcome you increasing that number, but it's something at the end of the year. If I have some supply money left and they have some things that they can, they want to order that are integral to, you know, because they weed the library out, right? They pull out older things that are not going out for circulation, and they'll put some new things in. So I have not heard that it's not been enough or that their needs haven't been taken care of. Can't put enough books.
Well,
in
I hope,
no.
I hope you do keep an eye on that. So apparently you are. So and,
Yep.
If they're not asking for more money, they're not going to get it.
Trying to
Other
keep it
questions?
reasonable.
Okay, not seeing any other questions.
All right, last program of the night. This will be the fast one. Program 4, transportation. So again, part of this program, we have secretarial support from the 2 schools, a portion of their salary, and then from Brenda in my office. That's what the 0.35 is. They have full-time jobs. It's just a portion is they have to do transportation. So they have part of their salary in this line. You can see the portion of their salary that's contractual. The bus contract, if you remember last year, went up significantly. They're trying to get us to a spot where other districts are. We're still well under the average, but you can see that there's a $40,000 plus increase there in just our daily bus contract. You've got some musical events we left flat. That's just to get some students to any of the musical events that they go off to. We have the funding for sporting events. We left that flat just because the number of trips is usually pretty consistent. The after school activities and clubs, we actually trued that up because we're now with more clubs at Hall School. Good job, Mary Kay. We wanted to put more money into those transportation to transport those students. So that's in there. And then you have the kindergarten orientation and Hall, the orientation to Hall School, 4th graders. And then you have the Hall School orientation to E.O. Smith. So small dollar amounts, they're actuals. Sometimes the bus company just says, you know, we put $200 in here. Sometimes the bus company will just say, this year it's part of your bill. Sometimes they bill us for it. And so we have to put money in for it because we need to do it. So you had a minor kicker here for diesel. Obviously, the increase went up. It's based upon the number of gallons. Donna has a calculation for the number of gallons we use each year, and that's how we factor that number. So you're looking at $564,000. You're about a $45,000 increase. And this non-lapsing here is again what I would suggest your after school program that we have is to be able to provide that program so if you have, I think it's 6 or 7 half days, early release days next year, that you do the same program you ran this year to keep the paras, to provide the transportation and the snacks, and that's what that offset $2,000 is right there for a budget total of $562,000. So this contract is through June of 27. And again, you can see the diesel cost is in there and the number of buses that we need. Quick program.
There we go. Herb?
Phil, in the health services, we have a nonprofit. It's operating in Hall School. It's in the school now. And have they had any impact on our budget at all? There's nothing built into our budget to show, there maybe increase in telephone costs or heating or anything like that. They haven't had any impact at all on our financial.
None, because it's a flat cost for our telephone service. We're not paying extra for anything for them. Both buildings.
And they don't pay anything for the space or heating or anything like that?
I mean, they're not, I mean, they're getting heat in the building, but we're not paying extra to heat a 140 square foot, office. It's not impacting the budget, I would say.
Other questions? Donna?
This is I have more overall questions, so I don't want to jump in front of anybody who has questions about program 4. So do you want me to wait a moment?
Sure, let's finish up program 4 first. But any other questions on transportation? Okay, none. So go ahead, Donna.
Okay. Phil, how much is in our non-lapsing fund about?
Right now, I couldn't tell you that. I think it's maxed out, but I would want to get that number for you. I think it's like 250.
Okay, and then it looked like you pulled 2,000 for transportation, and I thought there was another spot that you used non-lapsing too. Was it only that, or was there one more spot? Oh, and another $600. So we're looking at $2,600.
Yeah, it's minimal.
Okay. After we get through the whole thing, are there any other spots that you put non-lapsing funds to be used in any other programs?
No.
Oh, Donna, you're scooping next week's fun and excitement.
Well, I think we should consider taking a hunk, I'm going to say a meaningful hunk of the 250 and using it to help offset our budget. Not to dwindle it to zero, but maybe $100,000 of it, because I'm hearing that other departments, their budgets are really skyrocketing. So we have a little bit of, give us some cushion in case there is an emergency, but also be cognizant of the fact that I think at our last meeting, it looked like we were going to have extra left over from this year also.
Yeah.
And I know if we're at our max, we can't put more in it. So I think that would be prudent. The other thing is for the unfunded mandates. I had a conversation with somebody at the state level, and they said, hey, let me know what that stuff is. I think that the state needs to be aware, and our representatives need to be aware there may be some things they can do to help us out. So I don't know what you have that would be easy to share with us or send to our representatives. But I think that it's prudent, especially like you mentioned, the CT SEDS, that it's taking a lot of time and it needs to be done. But if they're mandating it and it's taking an extra 40 hours of someone's time, they should help us with that, ideally. But they need, I think like we can have more intelligent conversations if they're aware. And I'm not aware of what all these unfunded mandates are either. So
I used to have a list on. I'll see if I still have that list of what they are. Let me see if I can find that.
I think that list either came from CCM or from CABE.
Yeah, I think it came from CABE.
I think a list exists. I've seen it.
I mean, I don't want you to reinvent the wheel, but if there's something that we can do to advocate for ourselves, now is the time.
For sure. I'll pull then I'll have the non-lapsing number for next time. And you have program 3 next time, which is special education. It's probably, if you're going to apply non-lapsing fund, it's whether that budget's up or down, it doesn't matter. You can still offset a budget. That would probably be a reasonable spot to apply money if you wanted to.
Okay. And then I know my next thing for my fellow board members to think about is not going to be popular. But I was looking at the enrollment, and if we have less than 40 children in a grade, I think we should have two classes. So our current year, we've got 3 fifth grade classes, those children move to 6th grade. Those are itty bitty classes. Making it into 2 classes, I don't think is unreasonable. They'll still be small classes. They'll be in line with what our current 1st and 2nd graders have, and really close to what our other, I'm saying larger classes, even though they're all still really small. So that's just something to consider. Thank you.
So Don, I can share something about that. That's really important with that 5th grade, and something about future of the Wilmington Public Schools is that we operate that middle school model from grades 5 through 8. And so it requires 1 teacher for a section. And so instead of when they start to rotate classes and you need that person, if you eliminate that teaching position, you can only do so many rotations, and then you lose your middle school model. And that's why when you see small grades like that at the middle school level, we don't eliminate that position. I think in the future, you're going to hear me probably advocate, because certification can run pre-K through 6th grade. If we ever get to 1 building, it would be the time to consider doing something like that, where the board, and this is a big decision, it's not a small decision, is to do the middle school model as a 7th and 8th grade group, and maybe do the elementary model through 6th grade. And the elementary model is where that 1 teacher teaches everything. We know that model is not very easy, because you lose your specialist, but that's why the 3 sections at that middle school model, middle school level, just even though they're small groups.
That makes sense. So I withdraw my suggestion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Herb?
Yeah, along that same line, Bill, in the enrollment, in the kindergarten, we have 3 staff members now, and the enrollment chart shows about 44 students in that class, those classes. Is this a very difficult area to project? Because you really don't know how many youngsters will be coming in, unless we have a magic wand out there. And the projection by Proder for 23-24 is about 31 students, and right now we have 2 classes with 15 in them, so we'll be pretty close to that.
Yeah,
this is a problem with anticipating the numbers that are coming in. How soon would we know?
Honestly, sometimes we don't find out until June when Lisa does her kindergarten orientation, and we put signs out pretty early. But when she does, I think usually in May, correct, Lisa? And I pulled my little crystal ball here for you, Herb, because this is the hard one. And I'm joking about it, but we're reading birth certificate or births in the newspaper. That's literally what we used to do when I was a principal. The ones we typically know are when we have a student in pre-K, and we know that they're aging out and they're going to be recommended for kindergarten. Those are the ones we know. Especially now with all the transitions in households, the number of sales, it's hard to know. Is it going to be 42? Is it going to be 30? Is it going to be 50? We do our best to get the information as soon as we can. Unfortunately, it's probably after you're done with your budget, and that's why, without trying to get cooked kind of like we did this past year, like, oh no, we need a 3rd section. Where are all these kids coming from? That's what I say. I have my crystal ball. It doesn't always work though, but we have 3 sections.
We've always tried to keep the lower grades numbers down in classes. Now, is 15 pretty high for a kindergarten?
I think it's reasonable. I mean, look at Lisa smirking because she's a prior kindergarten teacher. I would say 15.
I can say I had 23 students in my kindergarten class last year.
Yeah.
That was a lot, but I also had a full-time para. So
It's not a lot at that age where they're so dependable on.
correct.
But Lisa, you said something important there. You also had a full-time.
I had a full-time para. Yes.
So that's
makes
two adults to 23.
Makes a big difference.
Right. It's very
if you
different.
don't have the pair of 23 kindergarten students is just not, it's
not workable. No.
Brianna has her hand up. I think she's got an opinion on this topic.
What is an ideal number then? Around 12 or 13?
Go ahead, Brianna.
It depends on the students too, doesn't it? How frisky they are.
So truly, sorry, Herb. My personal and professional opinion about class size, especially in the early childhood classrooms, is this. When you want to see success and you want to see increased student productivity, you want to see increased test scores, you want to see increased quality human beings, you make those class sizes as low as you can, and you give them a full-time para on top of that. That's how you get that done. Lower class sizes in all grades helps you give each child individualized attention. And maybe that seems a little bit unnecessary as the children get older, but especially right now when we've had this huge interruption to their education, it's just as important now as ever. Anybody who has something to say about our curriculum failing our kids or our test scores not looking like they're supposed to, those people should definitely be voting for low class size here, now, and always, because that is something huge we can do that is going to help them and benefit them. And really, that's my 2 cents on that. And then as far as how many kindergartners we get, I mean, if you think about it, we only have 2 sections of preschool right now. That's not a huge percentage of the little people in our town. And I think I remember when going over the Prouda report at one point, like birth records were considered. And sometimes you can have a registry and you know that if you have a second grader, they've got a brother or sister who's 3 and looking to come up to your preschool. That's how you kind of hunt around and find out who's coming. You could talk to the daycares, the in-home daycares. You could talk to Kids Kingdom. You could be like, all right, who do you have? Who do we think is coming? And start building those relationships with those families so that you can prepare your kindergarten group. And kindergarten is not required, which terrifies me to say, because I think it's a really important stepping stone for those kiddos. And I can't imagine going to first grade without some experience in public school, but that's just kind of me. So you can always sort of watch out for a little bit of increase in your first grade too, depending on what you have as far as students coming to kindergarten. So if you ask me, I will always vote for 3 classes, pre-K and K, all day long with paras. But, you know, I live in a little fantasy land, I guess, sometimes about that.
Anne?
I agree with you. Those early years are very important.
This is wearing my school building committee hat. I know this is with our ed specs pretty well developed. This year we have 3 sections of 3 different grade levels, and our ed specs only show 2 of each class. I believe we have 1 extra room, but I don't believe we have 2 extra rooms that we could use. And I agree with Brianna 100% about the low class sizes. And I think that's one of the real benefits of Willington is we've been able to keep those low class sizes. So I think that's something that, you know, have to keep in mind with the school building committee. The other thing is the 1.4 art. If that were to move forward, we have 1 space for art. So I know this probably isn't exactly the right time to bring it up, but just to put that on the table. Thank you.
So I'm going to answer that question now, Ann, because I already have the answer for it. If we go 1.4 art today and you do a building project where you move to a pre-K through 8th grade, one of the biggest challenges is being between 2 buildings and having 2 staffs. That challenge is gone. I think you'd have to go back down to 1.0. and we know it can be done within the sections. It's just the transition. It's the between the buildings. I've got to read emails from Lisa. I've got to read emails from Mary Kay. It's a lot.
It's making sure you have
Okay.
art supplies and the right ones in both rooms at the right time. Yeah.
Okay, very good. How about those 3 sections of the different grades? Do we have a plan for that?
Are you talking about SPC wise? Yes, and again, there's no, that we only have concept plans right now. If there's something in the future, that's why I advocated for spaces that are 800 square feet and not 5. So you might have to, rob Peter to pay Paul, but you can put world language in a classroom, in an elementary classroom. You could put a health class into, that person could travel if you had to steal those spaces. But it's also what you're referring to, I think, is also the importance of whatever, if there is a building project, that expansion consideration is important.
But I think we have to be foresightful too, because I think we're looking at the number 400, right around there, and we're finding that we need 3 sections of several of our.
Yeah, and that was definitely the challenge when we were coming up with the ed specifications. You'll remember is that we're going to have fewer classrooms than we have now. That we're gonna have to find some really creative ways to use our space, because we will not have the amount of space we have now. We will not have the number of classrooms, so we're gonna have to be a little bit more creative about things. Other questions specifically about the budget? Remember, we're going to be meeting the next couple of Tuesdays to go over other sections, other program areas of this budget. We start next Tuesday at 6. The dates and which topics we're covering are on the agenda. So you'll see that on there.
Michelle, can I just chime in real quick?
That's okay. Go ahead, Phil.
So just if anybody has, I think we'll probably, Michelle, do the same thing we've done in the past. If you have questions from the programs from tonight, we will put that on the front. So that'll be the first item on the, not first item on the agenda, but first, business item on the agenda, where do you have any questions about 1, 2, or 4, and then move into the new programs. And so you have all the programs now. You can see what's there. So 3, 5, 6, 7, and 10 next time.
Yep. Okay. If we don't have any more questions, then I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Also, program 10.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Herb.
Still didn't mention program 10. Is that on the agenda for next time?
Next time it's on for next time, yes.
Right. Okay. But we'll continue to ask questions. If there are things that you think about that showed up after tonight, you can ask that next week too. We will not limit the questions only to the topic that is on for that night. Okay, well, seeing that there's no more questions, then I move that we adjourn the meeting at 7:24.
I second that motion.
Thanks, Donna. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And it was unanimous. Meeting is adjourned. See you all next week. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night, all.